verse 5. It is who he made the sun to be a shining glory, and the moon to be a light of reflecting beauty. And see you not how Allah has created the 7 heavens, one above the other, and made the moon in light, a light in the midst, and made the sun as a glorious lamp. So whenever God Almighty spoke about the sun in the Quran, it refers as the one which is the source of light. And the moon is never referred to in the Quran as a source of light. But when you look at the Bible, Genesis chapter 1 verse 14, God says he created 2 lights, the greater light and the lesser light, which mean both were lights. So the author of the Bible saw them both as same, only thing sizes were different. And that is where the problem is. Now the other, I wouldn't actually say scientific flaw in the Bible, but what I did was that I tried to do some homework and see if I could research this and find some solution to this problem. And one of the greatest problems with creation was that when I looked at the book of Genesis, and the thing that really bugged me most, based on archaeological, historical and scientific evidence, was Noah's Ark. And according to the Bible, God goes out of his way to give us the size of the ark. And I have it here. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shall thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shall thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shall thou set in the side thereof. That is from the King James Version. And I did not understand the concept of cubits, and it was too much work for me to go and start converting from cubits to meters. So I got the New International Study Bible. This one here. The New International Study Bible. And they have done the work for us. And they say that these are the measurements. This is how you are to build it. God Almighty is giving instructions to Noah. The ark is to be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Make a roof for it and finish the ark to within 18 inches to the top. Put a door in the side of the ark and make the lower, middle and upper decks. And the reason why Noah was commanded to do this is because we are familiar with the story of the flood. The difference between the Quranic and the biblical states that the whole earth was flooded. And if the whole earth was flooded, the question that comes to mind is that 2 of every kind of animal to fit in an ark, which is basically 450 feet long, which is actually 1/6 the size of the Queen Elizabeth ship. And even if it has 3 levels, you do not have enough floor area to put all the animals in with the food storage. So scientifically, this is also wrong. There was no such ark to take, this size of ark, to take all those animals that God created and put them onto the ark. So this is also incorrect. But what is more difficult to comprehend in the Bible is that when the waters were receding, when the flood took place and when the waters were receding, that the bird that found that piece of twig on the mountaintop, that twig was found on the highest mountain at that time. Because remember, listen, if the whole world is flooded and the water is receding, common sense will tell you that you will see the highest point of earth first. And the highest point of earth is not in the Middle East, because they say that he went to that mountain and that is in the Middle East. But that is incorrect, because Mount Everest is the highest point on earth. So if Noah did see the highest point of land, then it would be Mount Everest and not in the Middle East. So that also is scientifically flawed. It cannot be correct. The other thing is that I found very, very confusing. We try to comprehend various facets of science, and we try to put it in relation to what we know based on our knowledge of the Quran and Bible. And at times we tend to rely on other people to do this for us as well. But what I found very strange was the reason that God Almighty gives us in the book of Genesis as to why he created the rainbow. I mean, this is very, very strange. What the rainbow actually is caused because of the sunlight which passes through tiny droplets of water. I'm not talking about atmosphere, which passes through tiny droplets of water, which creates a prism of light. And that prism of light refracts that spectrum of light, and you see the various colors of the spectrum. I have 5 minutes left. But the Bible tells us, and I will establish my covenant. I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore by the waters of the flood. So in other words, God Almighty is saying that, listen, we had a flood, I destroyed mankind, and now he says to Noah, I'm taking a covenant with you, and that covenant he is taking is that all flesh will not be cut off anymore by the waters of the flood. Now this is geologically incorrect, and if you're looking at weather patterns, this is also incorrect, because God says, and the bow, the rainbow, shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, and I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. So in other words, God is telling us, according to this, that he is creating the rainbow, that when he sets up a cloud, or when he gathers clouds together, that when he sees the rainbow, he will stop the rain, because he doesn't want to cause a flood. This is wrong. It is incorrect. A rainbow occurs because of the tiny droplets of water. But the point that I'm making here is that how can the author of the Bible put this? Didn't the author of the Bible know? I mean, you know the tsunami, how many million people passed away. Right now, only yesterday there was a flood in Australia. How many people died there? So God is making this covenant. It is a false promise. Scientifically, this person that wrote this didn't understand weather patterns. And that is why this is also flawed. I am going to end, but I want to end by reciting something to you. Just to give an idea, I didn't have time to touch onto the Quran. But a friend gave me this and he said that please read this to the audience, and I'm going to do him that favor, which actually this is going to be my closing statement. I think I have about 2 or 3 minutes left, and I'm going to do this quickly. He just wants me to inform you that Islam made great advances in the field of medicine, mathematics, physics, astronomy, geography, architecture, art, literature and history, to mention but a few. Many important new procedures such as the use of algebra, Arabic numerals and the concept of the zero, which was vital to the advancement of mathematics, were transmitted to medieval Europe from Muslim countries. It was the Muslims who developed sophisticated instruments, including the astrolabe, the quadrant and the good navigational maps, which were to make possible the European voyages of discovering the new world. In medicine, mathematics, astronomy, chemistry and physics, Muslim achievements were particularly noteworthy. Well-equipped hospitals, usually associated with medical schools, were located in the principal cities. At a time when superstition still hampered the practice of medicine in Western countries, Muslim physicians were diagnosing diseases, prescribing cures, and performing advanced surgery. Probably the greatest of all physicians of the 19th century figure, Al-Razi, known to the West as Rez. He was the author of many scientific works, including a comprehensive medical encyclopedia and a pioneering handbook on smallpox and measles. A 10th century physician, Avicenna, Ibn Sina, compiled a huge canon of medicine, which was considered the standard guide in European medical circles until the late 17th century. Important advances were made in algebra, analytical geometry, and plane spherical trigonometry. I want to end there because I think my time is up already. But while this mentioned medicine, I'm not going to read this to you, I don't have the time, but I urge every Muslim and Christian to go back, read Genesis chapter 38. What is written there is medically impossible. I have spoken to many doctors, pediatricians and gynecologists as well, and they said what is written in Genesis chapter 38 medically is impossible. You go ahead, do that. I end now. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Give me 1 minute, I'll be out.